Hello, everyone. Welcome to another expert conversations with me, Emee, here in Self-Publishing Made Simple. And for today, our very special guest is someone that I'm really proud of because he's one of our Self-Publishing Made Simple success stories, having published and launched his book to number one bestseller on Amazon. He's a business coach for freelancers and creative agencies, and yeah, he's here with us today to talk about his self-publishing journey, his challenges, and how he overcome those challenges and get his book published and launched to number one bestseller on Amazon. So without further ado, let's all welcome the number one bestselling author of Create and Prosper, Matt Essam. Hi, Matt.
Hey Emmy, how are you doing? Thanks for having me on the show.
Oh, cool. Well, I'm really excited to have this conversation with you, Matt, because I've seen your journey and it's such a fascinating journey that we've been through together to publish and launch your book on Amazon. And it was really exciting when you actually got to number one and maintained that, it's been over 6 weeks now, right? Since you
Yeah,
published your book, you haven't really done much after the launch and it just stayed there, at the number one spot. And it's really awesome to see. So before we get into that journey, tell us a little bit more about you, your business, who you serve, and how did you get into this field?
sure. Yeah. Well, I've been working in the creative industries for about 12 years, and I started in film and television, and then moved to kind of work with some of the bigger agencies in the UK, and worked with big household brands like Adidas, Philips, Unilever, that kind of thing. Um, and it was a little bit like one of those scenarios where you've got an idea in your head about what something's going to be like, and then when you actually arrive, it's a little bit different to what it would be in real life. So I imagined that I would be working on all these really big campaigns and all this amazing stuff, but the reality was I was actually quite a small cog in a big wheel. And so I decided that I wanted to start my own business and be a freelancer essentially to start with. And that was great because I got to manage my own time and, get up when I wanted and all of that kind of stuff. But once the novelty of that wore off and I was left with the reality that I also had to find my own clients and constantly pitch my services, I realized that I kind of had to take the business side of things a little bit more seriously. And I found that work tended to fall into one of two categories. So it was either really creatively fulfilling and exciting and you had complete creative control, but genuinely didn't have much of a budget. Or on the other category, it was really well paid, but it was a little bit monotonous and a little bit boring. And so I decided that I wanted to do the well-paid work that was boring, but I wanted to have a business that I could run from anywhere in the world. So I decided to kind of buy into this digital nomad lifestyle, and I created this small agency where I basically just had a load of freelancers that did all the work and I just managed the clients. And for a while, it was amazing. So I was traveling the world and I was doing all of this stuff. And from the outside, it looked like I had this kind of dream lifestyle business. I probably could have written another 4-hour work week style book. I could have run one of those YouTube adverts where there's a guy sitting on a yacht saying, do you want passive income? Do you
The
want to
freedom.
live on the beach and have the freedom? Yeah, totally. But what was really interesting was that after a year or so of doing that, I remember I was in Canada and I was snowboarding at the time. I'm sat on this mountain overlooking this incredible vista thinking, oh my God, this is, such an amazing lifestyle to have. But the reality was I just felt this kind of real emptiness inside.
Yeah.
And it was really like unfulfilling because actually what I had built is this business where I was just churning out this creative work to fuel a lifestyle. And I didn't actually like the business or the clients I was working with. I just wanted to do it so that I could do all these other things. And after a while, those things, they just wear off because they're a little bit superficial. It's all pleasure, no purpose. And, I had a bit of an existential crisis, really. And I came back to the UK and I decided that I wanted to build a business that had impact. And I wanted to do work that was creatively fulfilling and meaningful and paid the bills, not just one or the other. And so I kind of set about finding people that are already doing that. And I was lucky enough to be mentored by some very successful entrepreneurs. And I took everything that they taught me about business and sales and marketing and everything and applied it to my own consultancy business. And it just transformed in a period of kind of 6 months. I fired like 80% of my clients. So I had less clients,
Wow.
I was working less, and I was earning more. And more importantly, I was doing stuff with the people that I really wanted to, people I really wanted to help. And and yeah, really started to help them with their businesses. And that kind of just transitioned into, instead of just marketing and web design and stuff I was doing at the time, I took all of the business knowledge that I'd learned from those mentors and started to help people with that. And so fast forward to today, and that's my main focus. So I actually help freelancers and small agencies to kind of master the business side of creativity, as well as just the art of creativity.
Yeah, that's actually what I loved about your book because yeah, you have a business head on, but you also have this deep sense of understanding your purpose and doing work that is fulfilling. You don't just be like what you've mentioned, like be a creative monkey, but you actually need to have, to do something that is purposeful and has meaning, and that will give you a sense of fulfillment as well. So when
Exactly. Yeah.
you wrote your book, what triggered you to write something like this? Why did you write your book?
Because actually, one of the reason I wrote my book was because of one of my mentors, is a guy named Daniel Priestley, who's a prolific author and entrepreneur, and his book Key Person of Influence. It's one of his mantras is that the book that changes your life isn't the one that you read; it's the one that you write.
Mm,
And I saw how well that book worked for him in terms of his reach and his impact that he could have on people, and whether they ever went and worked with him or not, he was constantly, like, he was really good at describing complex business ideas and things, and I just saw how much impact it had on people, and I kind of wanted to have that same impact that he had, and I knew that the only way to really do that was to have something out there that was scalable, that
mm.
lots of people could read simultaneously, rather than just one-to-one coaching or group coaching.
You can actually reach more people and share your message with a book. And again, whenever I talk to you, you always have this sense of purpose. You have a sense of purpose to serve and actually make an impact. And that's also reflected in your writing and in your work generally.
Yeah, totally. Well, it's a life without purpose is pretty unfulfilling, I think, and I would argue that the majority of kind of mental health problems and these celebrities that we see drinking themselves to death and taking drugs ultimately boils down to a lack of purpose. They feel like their life lacks meaning and purpose, because if they didn't, and if it was focused on something else and something bigger than themselves, then they wouldn't do that, right?
Yeah.
It's a form of escapism, and for me, I kind of saw myself teetering on that border. It wasn't like I had this multi-million-pound business where I was flying everywhere first class. Like, I didn't have a lot of money, but I had a lifestyle
Mm.
that you would have
It's
if you
comfortable.
retired.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. And I was going to nice places, and so I didn't really have this want or this need for more material things or more experiences. And once you've had that, the only thing you then miss is, well, what's the point of all this? You start to ask yourself, like, what's the point in all this stuff that we're doing? A good coach, a friend of mine, said, life is about the balance between pleasure and purpose. And I think he's right, because if you have too much purpose, you can just become a bit of a martyr, and you've got no life of your own. If you have too much pleasure, then you have this real deep sense of unfulfillment. So it's like, where's that sweet spot?
A good balance, yes. And so you started writing your book. What were the challenges that you faced when you were writing your book? And how long did it take you to write your book? It's quite a massive book. It's
Yeah.
not like a short book that we usually publish in Self-Publishing Made Simple. You actually published one big book. So how long did it take you to do that?
So it took me about 15 months in total, from kind of the point where I sat down and decided to write it to the point where it actually went live. I gave myself a year, and I actually did it whilst I was away traveling. The biggest challenge initially was getting all of the ideas kind of out
Mm.
on paper, really taking these high level concepts that sometimes you just talk about when you're coaching people, and you don't necessarily see them for yourself in the way that your clients do, maybe because you just know it
You know it,
so
yeah.
well. So it was about, how do I get the ideas down onto paper and a structure that flows? So I had all these kind of disjointed ideas about purpose and about business and how you bring them all together. And I'd launched courses, so I'd kind of got an idea in my head about the structure I took people through on a course. But I wanted to create something which didn't have as much depth as my courses, because that would just overwhelm people, but flowed in a way that gave them that insight and made them want to keep reading. So the
Mm.
biggest challenge initially was, how do I do that? How do I structure this in a way that's actually going to make sense for people?
Yeah, it does take a bit of time to get your thoughts and ideas together and organize it in a way that makes sense to others, because as you've said, if you already know your stuff inside out, it's something that you live and breathe. To put it on paper and for it to make sense to others, you need to organize it, in a way that it flows, that's still engaging, that will make the reader actually want to keep reading. And for us,
Mm.
in the self-publishing made simple, get it done challenge, we spend the whole week to really just pin down the outline, and we spend another week on keyword and market research just to really understand, what your readers need, want, what are their fears and frustrations. And working with you one to one, what I've noticed is that when we did our keyword research together, you actually knew, what your readers are looking for. You actually understood their pain points, you understood their fears, their frustrations, their objections. And so when we did the keyword research and market research together, you were getting like really high traffic keywords, because you understood your clients, you understood your readers quite well.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, this business was built out of hundreds of conversations, right? It wasn't something that I just kind of came up with overnight. And because I've been a freelancer, it's kind of easier because I built a business to scratch my own itch. And I wrote a book to scratch my own itch. So I was lucky enough to be, mentored by people that have mentored hundreds of, well, probably thousands actually, of entrepreneurs. Um, and one of the key things that a lot of people miss in whether it's marketing or sales is really being able to put yourself in your customer's shoes. So
Yeah.
I had spent a long time before we met kind of doing that type of work. And it's something that the first thing I do when I work with my clients is that's one of my first questions, like, who is this for? If you're an illustrator, if you're a designer, whatever, like, who are you doing this design for? Like, who is your ideal client? Who are you in the best position to serve? And most people struggle with that because they just say, well, anybody. Like, they're so focused on themselves and their skill set that they just want to do it and they want someone to pay them. But unfortunately, in the business world, it's not that simple, right? That's what a job is for. If you want to freelance and you treat yourself like a business, you need to know, well, who am I actually going to target with this? Who do I actually want to help, right? So yeah, that was something that had been brought to my attention quite early on. And I think maybe with other authors or people you work with, it's super important to go through that process, because also if you write a book without going through that process,
It would be
then
quite hard,
your book's
yeah.
not really going to
For
connect
some
with it.
authors, I think, when they haven't done the groundwork properly, when they haven't laid the foundations, haven't done their market research, haven't really listened to their readers, what happens is they tend to have like a brain dump, and they just, say whatever they want to say, and give as much information as they want, just to show off how knowledgeable they are. And they end up writing a book that is, it's just too much information, but not a lot of meaning, not a lot of value for the readers. So,
Mm-hmm.
it's amazing that, you've done that step. You really understood your readers, you understood their needs, I think that's coming from your business hat as well, really understanding your customer essentially, and putting
Yeah,
yourself into their shoes. So when you actually have a product or a service or a program out, it's based on what your clients need, what your readers are looking for, and you deliver something that is valuable and meaningful for them. And that applies to books as well, because essentially the book is also a product, right?
exactly. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So outline. So you spend time organizing your thoughts, organizing your ideas. And I have to say, Matt, I've read your book, and your writing style is so engaging. It is so easy to read. It's conversational. And it's not like I don't feel intimidated. It's like a friend is talking to me, while
Yeah,
reading your book. So I have to say that your writing style is engaging and conversational and easy to follow. How did you learn to
thank
do
you.
that? How did you, is
I
that
wasn't
just
aware that
how
I
you
did.
write?
Yeah, I mean, I think especially I wouldn't. I've never been or never thought of myself as a writer. And then at school, English was never a particularly strong subject. I used to enjoy writing kind of fiction, and kind of stories and things, but it was never a strong subject. And so when I first came to write my book, I was concerned about, I've been to university, so I should be able to write to a reasonable standard, but I didn't do a particularly academic course in that sense. And I think I read somewhere, I think there's a book, I can't remember who the author is now, William, something beginning with Z, and the book is called On Writing Well. And he talks about different styles, and he says, you can either be kind of conversational or formal, and I looked at all these different styles and I thought, well, any other style than conversational is going to just feel really weird, and it's going to be really hard to write. So I might as well just write as the kind of voice in my head is talking. Yeah. And so I tried to keep it to that as much as possible. And it's nice to think, it's nice to know that you think that, because obviously I don't really know whether that does connect with people or not until people tell me. But I've read lots of books, and I know the ones that are hard to read, and I know the ones that are easy to read. And for me, the ones that are easy to read are the ones that are in that kind of conversational style. They talk to you as if you are there, and you feel like you're on that journey with them. And for me, as a coach, and using this tool as a tool to promote my business, that's really important, because what I want is people to come to me and come to a workshop having read that, feeling like they already know me, feeling like they already have those ideas, because then a lot of the hard work is done. That's a big part of marketing, is getting people to know, like, and trust you. Well, a book is a great tool for that, because you feel like you're there. If it's written in the right way, you feel like
you've had that conversation already.
Exactly.
They feel as if they've heard your voice already. They know what you're like. They get a feel of your personality as well through your writing. And if your message and your tone and your voice resonates with them, then when they approach you, they're already warm.
Exactly.
That's right. That's fantastic. I mean, for many members in our community in self-publishing made simple, some of them, they would say, I don't really identify myself as a writer, and they hold themselves back, and they don't write because of that belief. For those people who have that thinking, what do you have to say to them, if they don't identify themselves as writers, but they are experts, like they are awesome, they know their topics, what do you have to say about that?
I think maybe examine where that belief is coming from, because ultimately, what is writing? There are so many formats that takes these days. Like, you can go from everything. If you read a column in The Sun, like, some of that looks like it's written by a 5-year-old. They use slang, it's just terrible. But
it works. There are
for that. Hundreds of thousands of copies, and people still pay to advertise in it, and it's a still very successful tabloid. So it's like, what are you benchmarking yourself against? And I think it's like, remove the English teacher in your head that maybe once told you at school that you're not a writer, or that you're not academic, or whatever, because I don't think it's important whether you look at yourself as a writer or not. I think it's important whether you can connect with your audience.
That's it. It's whether you can share your message, if you have something that you would like to share, get it out. And I think there are some authors who would actually record themselves talking, because, if they are speakers, if they are coaches, and they are more comfortable speaking the information, they would record themselves and have the recording transcribed and then edited and turned into a book.
That's exactly, when I write another book, that's exactly what I'm going to do. Like, this process has taught me that writing as a medium is not my strongest communication format. And also, I don't enjoy it as much as I enjoy talking. So really, there's no reason why not to do exactly that. It's just to get it all transcribed, and then it's all out there. Work with an editor, look at the bits that don't flow, look at the bits that don't work. It's not cheating. It's just
getting the message out. Yeah.
And some people enjoy writing, and it's their flow, and they're good at it. So, let them do that thing. But if speaking is your your format, then do that. It doesn't matter. Like, it's not really about you. It's about your audience, right?
Awesome. Yes, totally. And let's talk about publishing and launching your book, Matt, because you're one of our success stories. And yeah, until now, without really touching your book, for the past 6 weeks, it's staying there at number one. You launch it at number one. You have your orange bestseller badge. How did you do it? And how did it feel when you actually made it to number one?
Well, the answer to the first question is quite simple. I just followed the exact instructions you gave me, and
We have I hope that I actually did have a whip, Matt. This is what you need to
yeah,
do this. We had a spreadsheet, didn't we?
yeah, exactly. So that part, I can't really take too much credit for that. What was the second question? Sorry.
How did it
How did it
feel?
feel? It was a bit surreal, to be honest, because I think I almost kind of had it in my head before it happened. Like, I was almost kind of visualizing being a Amazon bestselling author before it happened. And I think when it actually happened, maybe it didn't kind of hit me straight away. But then actually, obviously, when I go on and I've got that badge, and I can, when I reach out to people to maybe be on podcasts and things like that, it gives it a bit more gravity, that it's there and that it's still there, rather than it was a bestseller for like 24 hours. And I think one of the things that I'll credit you with is I wanted to kind of take the approach of the 24 hours, like, let's see how high up in the Amazon charts we can get. And you were like, well, you're not going to have any longevity with that. And so we were going backwards and forwards on it. And then I was like, okay, I'll just listen to you. And then it's made more sense in the long run, because then there's those categories, 3 categories that I'm number one in still now today, 6 weeks later. So, and one of them was business consulting. So it fits with what I
Your
do anyway.
niche. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
certainly with the launch sequence, there are some self-publishing gurus who would say, let's just have all your followers download your book in this specific hour,
Yeah.
and you get us, you'll overtake Obama, if you have like, 200 people downloading the book all at the same time. And that would happen, you'll get a
Yeah,
spike.
exactly.
But the
Yeah,
Amazon bots, if you like, will notice that. So in
exactly.
terms of, yeah, longevity and having, trying to get that orange bestseller badge, try to trigger the algorithm, it's a longer process, really. And there's a sequence that we follow. We did our keyword research, we optimized your page, we identified your categories, built your launch team, have the review sorted even before you launch, because yeah, you need to follow a sequence, you need to be prepared. It took us a bit of time to prepare your book for the launch, but it was totally worth it, to see you get to number one and actually stay there and maintain that for all this time. And I hope that it will continue now that you've published your book, and you'll keep promoting. I'm absolutely sure of that. When the corona thing is over, when you're back on stage and doing your workshops and your events, and you have your awesome book with you, it will continue, right?
100%. Yeah. And I think it's like, the thing I haven't done anything of is I've actually managed, just the only people I reached out to invited me on their podcast straight away, and they've got I think like 500,000 YouTube subscribers, and they post all of their podcasts on YouTube, and they're within my target audience. They do something similar to me. So like, the only person I have reached out to, I got on the podcast anyway, but I haven't really done I haven't had any kind of like promotion or marketing strategy around that. So that's without really doing anything, like you said. So yeah,
Yeah, and it
definitely,
will
I
just
need to.
carry on, and all your connections, with your mentors and, other influencers who could blast out your book, in the long run. It will just keep going on and stronger for your brand and for your book and for the message that you want to share, with creative freelancers as well.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
So Matt, what does the future look like for you? And what's next?
I think next for me is getting the print version out, which was one thing that I really wanted to do, and it's just something I need to do a bit more research into, in terms of the best distribution
Quality.
methods and and the quality of the book. Definitely audio book is the next step as well, getting that out there. And then really having a way to distribute that consistently, and reach as many people as possible. So it's doubling down on getting featured on the right podcasts, the right kind of websites, maybe writing some guest posts that are linked to the book and things like that. For me, the future is all about just amplifying that message as much as possible, really.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So Matt, if you have any message to to our viewers today who might be thinking about writing a book, publishing it, and launching it to number one bestseller on Amazon, what do you have to say to them?
Just do it.
Just do
Yeah,
it,
I
get on
think,
with it.
yeah, just get on with it. I think the biggest thing for me, the reason I was able to do it and actually get to the point where I had 40,000 words was that I just set myself a target every single day. And I just blocked out an hour in the morning on my calendar. And I just said, I'm just going to write 250 words. And whether it's a load of crap or whether it's really great, doesn't matter. Like, I just need to write it. And I just got it out and got it out and got it out until the point where I was like, okay, I'm coming up towards 40,000 words now. What bits can I cut out? So that would be my first bit of advice. Is it seems like quite a big task and quite a big challenge, but break it down, and have, someone like yourself or a community like you've got that can help you do that and support you. And then the second thing is, like, be prepared for it to be like 80% of the work comes right at the end.
Mm,
So like writing the book isn't actually the hard part. The hard part is editing it, getting your test readers,
cover.
promoting it, cover it, like all of that stuff is the stuff that's like what I would say is the hard work. So don't be afraid. I spoke to somebody the other day who's done it all on their own, and she was asking me about the different categories, and I was like, you just need to speak to Emee, because like she knows all of this stuff. Like just speak to her. She was like, oh, I like to do it on my own. And I just think, what's the point? Like, if you're an expert in your particular field, then focus on doing that and the content, whatever, and just get help doing the rest of it, because it's not your area of expertise. So find someone that can help you write it, find someone that can help you design the covers professionally, find someone that can help you get it to Amazon bestseller, find someone that can help you promote it, all of that kind of stuff. Because if you try and do it all on your own, it's just going to be overwhelming, I think, unless you've got a lot of time on your hands that, and you're bored and you've
Yeah,
got nothing else to
certainly.
do.
For the experts in our group, they actually know their stuff inside out. And for me personally, the writing is the easy part because that's what
Mm.
I know. That's my field of interest. The self-publishing bit, I learned this over the time that I wrote and published my own books, and now helping other coaches and entrepreneurs to publish their books. But it does take a bit of learning. There are so many steps involved that if you are a newbie first time author, it can be absolutely overwhelming, very
Mm.
stressful. Things can happen in between. You have questions that like, oh, what should I do with this? So when you have a coach or a mentor to guide you, and even if it is just a step by step guide, like what we've gone through, we did have a spreadsheet, a process that we followed. It just makes it simpler. It's still quite, there's a lot of stuff to do, but when you have a process to follow and when you have someone guiding you and mentoring you, that certainly helps. So you don't have to figure everything out on your own, and you don't have to feel overwhelmed about the process, because you're right, writing is one part of it. Getting it published and launched to number one bestseller on Amazon is another thing.
Yeah, totally.
Awesome. So thank you very much, Matt, for sharing your story with us. And I really did enjoy, our journey together, in your self-publishing, getting your book to Amazon, publishing it and launching it to number one bestseller. And I really expect, more things to come from you. It's such a fascinating thing to watch you publish your book and carry on and still stay at number one bestseller even after weeks at the top. So
Yeah, it's
thanks
been a
again,
pleasure working
Matt,
with you. No
and
worries.
thanks everyone for tuning in. I hope that you found something meaningful and valuable from this conversation, learn from Matt's story. He actually does have this deep sense of purpose. And when he wrote his book, it's, there's something that he wanted to share, something that has meaning and value for his readers. He absolutely knew what his readers need, what they fear, what are their fears, their frustrations. And in the end, he managed to write a book that has tons of value, that is serving his audience. And then he worked with me and followed the process to publish and launch his book to bestseller, number one bestseller on Amazon. And he's still there at the top, having triggered the Amazon algorithm, and yeah, just doing really well there. So thanks again, Matt. Thanks again, everyone, for tuning in, and we'll catch up again next time for another expert conversations with Emmy here in Self-Publishing Made Simple. Until then, take care and bye for now. Bye.
See you later.
Bye.